Okay, this week is Parshas Vayera, and so much is going on. These are like the Parshios where it's such a drama. There's so much of a storyline. So we'll go into the storyline and we'll learn from the story. Okay, so it starts off with Vayera, which means, and he appeared. He appeared. And it's God appearing to Avram, right? Avram, in last week's Torah portion, we said Avram was having his Brit Milah. When he was already so old, he was having his Brit Milah. And we said Yishmael was also, all the household was having it. Yishmael was 13 of age at the time. And right after, God made it very hot so that no one would be in the desert, so Avram could rest, because he needed to rest to recuperate from his major surgery at that age. But Avram was looking for guests. So he's sitting outside waiting for guests, because Avram was par excellence, the hostess par excellence. He's looking for guests. And he's in the middle of talking with God, communicating with God. That's what it says, Vayera Elav Hashem. Hashem appeared to him when 3 guests appear. 3 people are coming. And what does he do? He's in the middle of talking to God, and he says, sorry, God, excuse me, I got to deal with my guest. And at first it seems like, what's going on here? This is so irreverent. We're talking about Avraham, who's such a tzaddik, who is such a holy, righteous person. He's in communication with God. The highest thing that we can ever imagine, you're speaking to God in communication with God, the creator of the being. And he says, sorry, God, there's a few nomads who are walking who need a piece of meat, a piece of tongue and some mustard. Sorry, God, I'm putting you on hold. That's our first reaction. And this is really something that we learn so much about what Judaism is all about. How Judaism is about action. It's nice to be in prayers, it's nice to be meditating and communicating with God, but it's action. When someone needs you, this is action. And you can compare it to, let's say if someone's on their phone, they finally got an opportunity with this, they're looking for a job, and they finally got the opportunity to speak to this head honcho of this big executive, who's ready to speak to them and interview them, and they say, oh, hold on, a telemarketer is calling. Hold on one sec, I gotta get that, right? That's what it seems like. He's talking to God, and he says, sorry, God, hold on for these nomads that are walking the land. But imagine if that head honcho is interviewing you and you say, sorry, hold on, your child is on the phone and I have to help him. Oh. Suddenly the head honcho is like, oh, this is the guy that I want to hire. Right? Someone who cares about my kid, this is somebody who I want to hire. And that's what Judaism is all about. When it comes to helping another person, God looks at it as if we are taking care, we're tending to his children. So yes, Avram says, thank you, God, but I need to take care of your children right now. And he turns to take care of these 3 guests that are walking by. And we're told that these 3 guests are special people. Even though Avram did not know it, these were actually angels. These were angels who came to give him a message. There was 3 of them, because when it comes to an angel, they can only do what their function and duty is. Human beings are full of so many multifaceted parts to us. There's so many different parts to our personalities, talents, and things that we enjoy doing, even in our characteristics. Sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're patient, sometimes we're not. We have so many different parts to us. With angels, they're one-dimensional. That's what an angel is. He's a one-dimensional being. And when he has a mission to do, he's just doing that mission. And so therefore, the 3 angels came for 3 separate functions. One was to tell the news to Sarah that she would have a child, which would be Yitzchak. If you remember in last week's Torah portion, Avram was saying when he heard this news that he'd have a child, he said, Lu Yishmael Yechia Lefanecha, if only Yishmael will live before you. And this is the cause of all the problems that we're going through today in Amsterdam and everywhere else. This is exactly the problem, that he prayed for Yishmael, that Yishmael should be, that's what the Zohar teaches us, that at the end of days, the Zohar says, which is now, we're going to have these problems with Yishmael, with the descendants of Yishmael. So God had told him that he would have a child, and this angel is coming to tell him, I'm giving you the news, you're going to have a child. At this time, next year, your child will be born. Sarah will have a child. That was the first angel. The second angel came to tell Abraham about the destruction of Sodom. And again, this is a power of destruction. And the whole reason for him telling it to Abraham was so that Abraham could then negotiate with God, which is what Jews are great at doing. We like to negotiate. And not only do we like to negotiate, but we like to negotiate for a good thing. And so Avram started to negotiate with God and say, well, God, what if there's only, so many people and so forth? And so he's able to negotiate God down. So that angel was responsible for Sodom's destruction. And the third angel was responsible for saving Lot, saving Abraham's nephew Lot from the destruction. So these were the three angels that came to them. Now they come to him, and the angels, it says, come to Abraham, and they were very eager to come to this very holy person, because this holy person they want to understand, who is this holy being? And Avram was the tzaddik hador, the tzaddik of the generation. And the angels approach, and they're like thinking, oh, we're going to see something really, really special about this person. And what do they see? He says, come on in. Let me give you some cheese. And then afterwards, let me give you some tongue with mustard. He's a great cook. He's taking care of them. He's taking care of all their needs. But the angels are almost like, you can imagine, they're like, their mouth is like agape. Like, who is this holy person? What is he offering us? Like, we came to see, what is this spiritual being? What kind of person is this spiritual being that is even holier than us? And what do they see? That he's into the material. Come, I'll give you the food. I'll give you the meat, the roast, the mustard. And
Down to earth.
very down to earth. And then so they don't understand what's going on there. So they say, and where's Sarah? They're thinking, okay, maybe he's not the righteous one. Maybe it's Sarah. Maybe it's his wife that we need to meet. Maybe she's the one behind it all. Behind every great man, there's the greatest woman, right? Maybe it's her. And he says, Hine ba'ohel, she's hidden in the tent. And what does it mean she's hidden in the tent? He's trying to say, if you think that I'm hidden in my righteousness, she's even more hidden. She's even more hidden than me. You're not going to be able to see it on the outside, this holiness. Because what does holiness really mean in this world? It means when a guest comes, you put out the mustard and the tongue. And not only the tongue, but with the mustard, you take care of another person. That's what Judaism is all about. Not that we escape this world, but that we deal with this world. We deal with this world and we deal with others. We give that chesed, that kindness to others. And that was the lesson that Avram was really teaching them. And even more so, he makes sure to give them what kind of food? First, he gives them cheese and milk. And after that, he gives them meat. Now, we know that in Judaism, you cannot have the opposite. You have to wait after meat before you have dairy. But you're allowed to have dairy, wash your mouth or rinse your mouth out, and then have meat.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know.
Yes. Some people will wait like a half hour, unless it's very aged cheese. And aged cheese, you'd have to wait longer because it takes longer for the digestion process. But for most things, you just have to rinse out your mouth or wait between a half hour and an hour, and then eat the meat. But so Avram's giving him the dairy, and then he's giving them the meat. And the question is, why did he have to give them the dairy and the meat? Like, just the meat was enough. I mean, he slaughtered a whole meat for three people. Why is he doing that? And the answer is, he's also trying to teach them and us a lesson. What is the power of dairy? If you think about dairy, the power of dairy and the power of milk, and you see this with the mother's milk as well. The milk keeps coming. The more you nurse, the more that comes. And the same is with cow's milk. The more that you nurse, the more that the child takes from it, or in our case, the more you take out the milk, the more that comes. And it's the only thing that we see that's like this in this world. In our physical world, everything, you eat the food, it's gone. There's no more, right? You use up your budget, you spend your money, you spend the paycheck, it's gone, right? Takes till you work harder again and you create a new paycheck. But once you use something up, it's gone. There's no more of it. And yet with the mother's milk, the more that the baby nurses, the more it produces. And if the baby eats a lot, then it produces even more. That's how it works with milk, with dairy. And that's why that was the message that he was trying to give to the angels. And that's really a message that he was trying to teach us as well. When you have a guest, sometimes a guest feels very much like, I'm imposing, like I'm imposing on the person. And his message was, no, there's no such thing as imposing. I'm happy that you're here. The more that you're here, the more I'm ready to give, the more I want to give. And if we can give that message to our guests, as I'm sure Sharon does as hostess par excellence, the more that you give, the more that you welcome your people, the more they feel that they're not an imposition, but to the contrary, the more that I'm giving out, the more that there is. And this is true, we know, when it comes to tzedakah. It says when we give, the more that we give, the more that we have. Aser ta'aser, you should aser, you should give a tenth. Bishvil shetit asher, give a tenth in order so that you can become rich, because the more you give, the more God pays us back. So this is what he's trying to give, the message that he's trying to give the guests, these angels that come. And they give the message that Avram's going to have a child. And Sarah hears this message, and it says, Batitzchak Sarah Bikirba. Sarah laughs inwardly. She laughs at the fact that I'm going to have a child at such an age. At 90 years old, I'm going to have a child. She was already all withered in her old age. And she's like, there's no way that I can physically have a child. And if we look at the words Vatitzchak, Sarah, Bikirba, we have Vatitzchak. Inside of that is the name Yitzchak. And if we look at Bikirba, what word do we have in Bikirba? Bikirba.
Betocha.
It says Bikirba. It means Betocha. But what word is in Kirba? Kirib.
What?
Kirib. Keep going.
Rivka.
Rivka.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Wow.
Yay. Yes. So
Very
in other
nice.
words, Bikirba, we have the word Rivka. In other words, we're saying, yeah, it's pretty cool. Very cool. That, and this is what it says, before a child, 40 days before a child is born, a bat kol, a voice, a heavenly voice goes up from heaven and says, this one will be married to this one. And this is where we see this concept that she laughs inward. As soon as there's this idea of a Yitzchak, there's an idea, there's this concept, there's spiritual concept, or this energy, whatever you want to say the words are, there's this energy of the Rivka, because she was his soulmate. So yes.
It's the first time I hear. I told it so many times. It was good. Never Bikirba.
Yes.
Yitzchak, I know.
Yes, but Yitzchak
Bikirba.
Sarah
This is
Bikirba,
so
she
nice.
was somehow in some spiritual world, she was created in those moments in concept, because as soon as we have this Yitzchak, we have this Rivka. I thought that was very
What
nice.
does that word mean?
Bikirba means inside of her. Like
Betocha.
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 Yeah, like Sarah's laughing inwardly, like she's
Okay.
laughing to herself, like, oh, like I'm gonna have a child, That's what it means on a simple level. But Titzchak Sarah Bikirba, Rivka, Sarah's laughing inwardly, like, how's this possible that me, I'm already, it's impossible for me at this age to have a child. But this was the concept of the Yitzchak and the Rivka that will be born. Okay, so this is what happens, and as we said, the next part is Sodom is going to be destroyed, and they go to save Lot, and of course Abraham bargains with God, and he says, God, if there's 50, even 50 people, will you save it? And God says, yes, I'll save it, and he goes down to 40 and 30 and finally 10, which would mean only one righteous person in each of the cities, and that's when God says there isn't even that. There isn't that amount of people. And we can take a little message from this. Sometimes we think, you need so many people to change over the world. Like you were saying, like at the rally, how many people were there? Sometimes you feel like you need the numbers, and sometimes we do need the numbers, but sometimes it's a matter of just one person. It was just one person who needed to be, there was 10 different cities that were destroyed, and only one person, one righteous person in each of those cities. That was all it would need to save all of them. So, we can sometimes think, oh, the world is getting worse and worse and worse, but maybe we just need to be that one person. And if we're that one person, that's all we need to save everything and to save everyone. So that's what we learned from that whole negotiation. And of course, we learned how a person is supposed to react when you hear something negative. You're supposed to try to advocate for others. You're supposed to, Avram's negotiating with God. We don't just accept bad decrees. We try to advocate. And he's trying to save them, because that's what a tzaddik does. We can contrast that to Noach, who we were introduced a few parshiot ago, how Noach did not do that. And that's why he was only righteous in his generation. But had he been in the generation of Abraham, he would not be considered righteous, because our way is to go out to the world. It's not enough that we know the truth. It's not enough that we know what's right and that we practice what's right. We need to spread morality to others and to the entire world. And that's what Avram teaches us. He went out, he made converts, him and Sarah together. They had these Chabad houses, if you would say, these houses where they were bringing in all the people. We're teaching them about Judaism way back then. And that's what we're supposed to do. Bring people into our homes, teach other people, show them the way of God, show them what to do, show them what is right. Okay, so the angels go into Sodom, and they save Lot and his wife, who we know looks back and turns into a pillar of salt. And only Lot's daughters are now alive, Lot and his daughters. And if you remember when we did that whole class on Shavuot with Rus, we said, who was the children of Lot? Yes. So we see that Lot's daughters thought, they saw this destruction in Sodom, and they thought everyone was destroyed. There was no one who was alive. It was only them who were able to be rescued from it. So they assumed that the entire world was destroyed. And so what do? We're told next that they decide to lay with their father and become pregnant from their father. Yes, in order to populate the world. And we're told that this was actually this was not something bad on their part. This was actually very noble, because they wanted to populate the world. So they get Lot drunk and they become pregnant from him. And one of them, the older daughter, calls her child Moab, which means May of, from my father. And the younger daughter is more discreet. She doesn't advertise it. She just calls him Ammon, which means from my nation, from my nation. But these are the two daughters of Lot, and we're told that Rus and Arpa come from these two daughters. Rus comes from Moab, who is the father of the ancestor of Mashiach, and the ancestor of David HaMelech, who is the ancestor of Mashiach. And it comes from that first situation where they did it, and they did it in a noble way, because they thought the world would be destroyed. So that happens there. Next we have that Sarah actually gives birth. God remembers Sarah, and she gives birth. And this is what we read on Rosh Hashanah, that God remembered her on Rosh Hashanah, and that's why we read it on Rosh Hashanah. And she gives birth to a son who she calls Yitzchak, from that laughter. Now, this was the first Jew, and this is really something that...
Abraham was the first Jew.
You're right. Abraham was the first Jew, but this was the firstborn Jew. Yes, okay. But you're right. Abraham was the first Jew, but he's the first child that was born to both Jewish parents. And his name is Yitzchak, which means laughter. So why was he called laughter? What is it about laughter? What does laughter mean? Why was Yitzchak, the firstborn Jew, called after laughter?
Happiness.
Happiness. We're a happy people, despite everything that we go through. Well, let's think about laughter. Let's think about a joke, okay? When someone says a joke, It's going in one direction, and then suddenly the narrative just completely switches, and you're so caught off guard that you laugh because you didn't expect it. It's very unexpected. That's when we laugh. People laugh. Sometimes people laugh if they see someone falls, and they don't even mean to laugh, but they laugh because it's so unexpected that the person fell. Or you laugh at a joke. You don't laugh at something that you expect. You laugh at something that is so unexpected. You're going in one direction, and all of a sudden there's this punchline that catches you so off guard that it's actually humorous. That's what a joke is. That's what laughter is. It comes out of something that we do not expect. It catches us by surprise. How does this apply to the Jewish people? Because what is the Jew? What is really the Jew at heart? And this is what the name of Yitzchak comes to teach us. The Jew at heart is somebody who is this physical being. We're physical, we're human, but we have this godly soul. It's completely unexpected. It's this match of complete opposites. You're going in one direction, so you're a physical being, but you're told you're a physical being, but don't live a physical life. Live a holy life. Live a spiritual life. But live a spiritual life while you're dealing with physical reality, while you're dealing with the tongue and the mustard and the cake and everything else. That's what Torah is all about. That's what Judaism is all about. That's what being a Jew is all about. Taking heaven and bringing it down to earth, right? Not leaving earth and going to heaven, but actually bringing heaven into this world. Bringing heaven and spirituality into every single one of our interactions. So living a physical life, living a material life, dealing with people, but making those connections holy connections. Dealing with the mundane reality, dealing with every single thing that we need to deal with, but making those interactions and those activities a holy activity. So living in a beautiful home and having guests and learning a Torah class. That's Judaism. That's what Judaism is. Yes. Doing your Krav Maga, because you want to help defend yourself and others, which is a mitzvah. These are all mitzvah. Doing those same things in a way that is a holy way, that is a spiritual way. Using your mouth to talk, but not to talk about people, not to talk about gossiping about this one or that one, but using your voice to be heard in a dignified way, to help with the hostages, to help with people who need advocacy for them, to help with teaching Torah, to help in things that are positive things. That is what Judaism is all about. And this is what Yitzchak, the name Yitzchak is, because this is the boy that is going to be this laughter. He's going to be a miracle. He's definitely a miracle. He's a miracle that's, till today, the fact that we're around today is a miracle. It's a huge miracle.
Yeah,
that we see. We see this over and over and over again because everyone wants to kill us. Everyone wants to hurt the Jews. Everyone's persecuting us. Generation after generation. B'chol dar v'dar. Every generation they're coming and rising up to kill us. And yet this miracle persists. So this miracle is really, the joke's on them, right? The joke's on them because they try to kill us and we persist and we rise up. And not only do we persist, but we make such an impression in this world. Like how many Nobel, like we were talking last week about the Nobel Prize winners, the amount of Jews, the amount of contributions that the Jews make. This is the laughter. This is the laughter that is miraculous. But it's more than that. It's not only that we defy all odds, but it's that we take spiritual and physical and we combine them together and we make it holy. We don't leave this world to meditate on spiritual realities, but we bring spirituality into the mundane realities of our world, into everything that we do. And that's what a mitzvah is, taking God, taking that piece of God and bringing it into every physical interaction that we have, specifically with the physical. So that is what it means that Yitzchak, that she laughs inside, and that's what it means why Yitzchak is called Yitzchak. Okay, then we have that Yitzchak has his Brit Milah after 8 days, right? Now we know already, God commanded the idea of Brit Milah, and after 8 days, Yitzchak has his Brit Milah. Now, how long, at what point did Yishmael have the Brit Milah?
He was 13.
13 what?
Years.
So it says that Yishmael actually goes to Yitzchak, and when they're a little older, and he says, like, I'm much far superior than you. Like, you were circumcised when you were 8 days old. But hello, like, what does a baby know at 8 days old? Nothing. You had no choice in it. But I was 13. I already was at the age where I understood. And not only did I understood, I was still willing to do that.
And it was my choice.
It was my choice. Yes, it was my choice.
Let me ask you something. 8 days, does it mean anything? Does it have anything behind it? The 8 days Brit Milah? Yes?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Do you want to say
No, I'm
something?
gonna say, so the number 7
Seven I
is
know.
Shalem.
Okay.
Number 8 is Lamala Min HaTeva, is outside of the realm of
Of nature.
nature. There we go.
Ah,
Like
okay.
like
So that-
Hanukkah is 8 days.
Yes.
Because 7 is the 7 days of the week, 7
Okay.
days of nature. But the Jew has something in him that's even above nature.
Okay.
And that's how
Great,
we're
thank
able,
you.
it's that part of us, that's a part of us that's, we're physical beings, but it's that piece of God that's with us. And that's what the number 8 represents.
Oh,
This time period where things are going to be beyond nature, but in a way that's totally beautifully miraculous, combining miracles and nature in one. So this is what Yishmael says to Yitzchak, though. He says, look, I was born very differently than you. I was born naturally. You were born miraculously. But, look at how, what happened here. I decided, I made it my position to choose to have a Brit Milah. And what's the answer to that? Anyone? It's a tough one, huh? Sounds like a good point. And it actually says that because of Arab circumcision, that's why they have this hold on the land of Israel. That's their zchut until the end of days, which is now, when we say no, they don't do it properly. It's the Jewish people who are the ones in this land. But you have to have some kind of spiritual merit as well. So what do we say to that? We say, well, Yishmael, true, he was circumcised at 13, but there's something beautiful to the connection that the Jew has with Brit Milah when he has it at 8 days old. And that connection is that it's a relationship that we have with God that isn't dependent on our own thoughts and our own logic and even our own choosing. As we said last week, that what was Abraham? Abraham, the first Jew, was chosen by God. That's how we are. That's what we are. We are chosen. The Jewish people, we said it didn't start with telling us all about how great Avram was, how he was this righteous man, how he did all these righteous things. Yes, that was all part of it. But it starts off just simply saying, God is choosing Avram because God chose each and every one of us. It's not even a choice that we make. Whether you like it or not, you're not making the choice to be Jewish. You are Jewish no matter what. And when we think we're choosing, unfortunately, the nations of the world remind us how it's not our choice, right? We've seen that. We've seen that with the Nazis who looked up ancestries and everything, and you thought you can escape from it. And they're like, no, we're going to remind you exactly who you are. And there was a story with the kibbutz as well, where someone was saying this, right? Where they were saying how the Arabs she was taken to Gaza, and they were looked at as not even Jewish, as some kind of colonialist, and it was that moment that she woke up.
Oh, yeah,
and
I read
she
that
said,
story. That was
right?
that was a
And she
good
said
story.
that was the moment that she woke up, and she said, no, I am
And
Jewish. And now
became,
she introduced into her kibbutz
Yep.
that they're allowing, that she wants to build a shul, she
Right,
wants
they
to
had
build a
nothing.
synagogue.
It
They
was
had
amazing.
no
Yeah, I
shuls,
remember
no
reading that
synagogues
story.
there at all. And she's like, we have to,
Where did we read it?
I'm not even sure where I read it either, I just remembered it this second.
Right, was it,
Yeah.
was it the
Love
press or was it one of the?
I read the story.
Yeah, where did
Yes.
we read this?
So I'm
What is
also
the
wondering.
story?
This woman was taken into Gaza, and they made fun of her the whole time that she's not eating. She was trying to be friendly with her captors and say something like, "We're all the children of Abraham. You know, we're brothers. We're cousins. Like, let's." She was trying to, and the
Is this a
captor.
real story?
A real story just happened. Yes. And they were making fun of her. They're like, "You're not really the children of Abraham. You're not even the descendants of Abraham. You're just these colonial and
Imperialist.
imperialist." You know,
Meaning of the words would be.
and she was, and when she left, she realized like her kibbutz had no shul. There was no shul. There was nothing there that made her Jewish. And she's like, now I have to exert my Jewishness, show that I'm Jewish. So she's now making a whole, I forget her name, but she's now making a whole project to build a shul in her kibbutz so that there is a shul,
Right.
because she wants to express her Jewishness. I am a Jew. And it was unfortunately Hamas who made her realize how Jewish she was, because she didn't look at herself as a Jew until they showed her, or until they tried to prove to her that you're not a Jew. So sometimes it's those who prove to us, or try to prove to us that we're not, that makes us realize that we are. But getting back to the point of Yishmael and Yitzchak, the Jew is a Jew. It's not because we chose, and that's the idea that Yitzchak was saying, that I had a Brit Milah when I was 8 days old. That was not my choice. It's something that God wanted for me, because this relationship with God is not something that I choose based on my rationale. When I like it, I'm okay with it. When I don't like it, I'm out. Sorry guys, I'm not part of this club. This is something that's me. It's me to the core. It's not even something that I'm able to choose. I've been chosen for this. This is something that we are. It's our identity. It's our core. It's not like you can choose what hair color you are, you know, and go to the salon and change it. This is the identity. This is who we are. And so Yitzchak is saying, you might have chosen to have the Brit Milah, but I was chosen for it. This is my identity. This is who I am. This reveals the deepest aspect of what I am. This is who I am. A Jew who has this bond and relationship with God, no matter what, in times that I understand and in times when I don't understand. It's like you can have a relationship with, with your husband, and you're like, okay, certain things I'll do for you and certain things I won't, because it doesn't make sense to me. That's not a real relationship. A real relationship is when you're there for each other, even with their crazinesses, and even when they have these crazy ideas or idiosyncrasies that we don't understand, that this silliness that seems like, but those are the things that you want. That I'm here for you, because we're here for each other, whether we understand it or don't understand it. And we know with God, obviously, what He wants for us is for our benefit, but we're here to do it no matter what, because this is the connection that we make. Once we've made that realization that God is the creator, then we're ready to take whatever God wants. We're ready to say, Na'aseh v'nishma, we'll do, and then we'll understand. Because if it's coming from you, God, I'm in it. We're in this relationship, and I'm in it all the way, whether I understand, whether I have reason or not. And that's the connection of why Yitzchak is saying this. My Brit Milah took place at 8 days. It's true, you choose. You choose when you want, when you don't want, what you like, what you don't like. With me, it's something that I've been chosen for. And this is a connection that is completely and forever unbreakable. And then we have the last part in this parsha, which is the first time that we see an argument between Abraham and Sarah. Only recorded argument. Yeah.
With Hagar.
With Hagar.
Yeah, she
Yes.
didn't want her.
Sarah sees that Ishmael is acting up, and according to some, he was trying to either physically hurt Yitzchak or spiritually harm Yitzchak by bringing him down in a spiritual level, and she does not like the interactions between them. And so she says to Abraham, Shalach ta'ama, send her away, send away this woman from my home. And Abraham is very reluctant, and he doesn't want to do it. Abraham is the epitome of chesed, of kindness, and he's very reluctant to do something so severe. His own child, to send him away. He opens up his home, Avram had an Eshel. It says he had this tent where it was open on all four sides so that everyone could come. And he's inviting everyone into his home. He's the epitome of being this generous person, hosting everybody. And his own son, he's being asked to send away. It didn't sit well with him. Avram is the epitome of kindness, chesed. And here he's asked to do something so severe, send his only child away, his other child away. And Sarah insists, and we're told that God even has to intervene because there's this big conflict going on between these two great people. And God says, Kol asher tomar lecha Sarah, shma b'kola. Whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her voice. Because she's not just talking from her own voice, but her voice is the voice of prophecy. She's talking from a higher perspective of what's right and wrong. So listen to her voice, listen to what she is telling you. And we read this actually, as we said, on Rosh Hashanah, because we're trying to teach men, if you want to have a good year, listen. But no, joking aside, what was going on here? If we take a step back, let's take a step back at what's going on with Sarah's saying this. And we realize that Sarah is saying, Avram and Sarah are both on this mission. They're on this mission to convert the world. They're on this project to spread monotheism to everybody. And they're doing that by inviting people, by sharing their teachings with people. And we're told that they have a huge following, that they had a huge following of students and followers, many, many people who embraced their message of godliness and embraced their teachings of monotheism for the world. And so you can imagine, this is the mission that they're on, and yet Sarah is saying, hold on, I'm ready to be badmouthed by all the gossip papers in the world, but if I know something is not good for my child, I'm staying strong in my values. This is not okay. This is not okay. This child is going to be harmed, either physically or spiritually. This is not okay. Zero tolerance for it. And she teaches us as Jewish women how we need to be strong like that. How there are times when you have this inner intuition and you know what's good for your family or you know what's good for yourself, and sometimes you're influenced by those around you. And you're influenced to the extent that, are they going to say that about me? How can I be that way? Or are they going to look at me as too religious? Or are they going to look at me as a hypocrite? Or are they going to look at me in a way that I don't want to be seen? And so we're scared. We conform to society because we don't want to stand out. We don't want to be different. We don't want to be that voice of change because it's hard to be that voice of change. And Sarah comes as the first Jewish mother, and she teaches us, don't be afraid of what others are saying. Have that courage, have that inner conviction to be who you know you need to be, whether it's something that's good for yourself or good for your family, but you know what's right, go for it, do it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your husband's not listening. It doesn't matter if the newspapers are going to blast your name tomorrow and say, you need to stay by your conviction. Obviously, you do it in the best way possible and in a way of peace, but you need to stand by your conviction because you're responsible for yourself and your family, and that comes first, and that's what's so important. And that's an incredible lesson that we learn from Sarah, especially in today's times when we're so affected by what everyone's going to say and what our neighbors are going to say and what this one's going to say and that one's going to say and what social media is going to say and how are we looked at and our reputation and all that. And and you can imagine this was so much a part, even spiritually, a part of Sarah's role, because here she's trying to teach people, and how would it look? What will people say about her? And she's like, that doesn't matter. I know that this is the right thing that needs to be done. This is what we're doing. There's nothing to talk about. And I think, it's when sometimes I'm swayed in a way and I'm not sure what to do, what not to do. I think back to this example of Sarah, and it really gives you strength. It really gives you strength to love. And I know, even till today, there are people who still say, I remember I was giving this class about Sarah years and years and years ago, and people were like, well, look at her. She wasn't being nice, and that wasn't really a right thing that she was doing. And there's a lot of people who think this was horrible what she did. Till today, and yet we know the truth. God himself attests, Kol asher tamar lecha Sarah shma b'kola. And this is, whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her voice, because the voice is not a voice of ego, but it's a voice of inner conviction. And we have that inner conviction, and that's the key, really. If it's not a matter of your ego, it's not a matter of your pride, but it's a matter of something that you feel is necessary for your family, for yourself, for your community, this inner conviction has to be what guides you and what takes you in the right direction. Yes, sure.
So, keeping that thought in mind,
Yes,
but because she did that and he sent Ishmael away,
yes.
look at the problems it's caused the Jewish nation for thousands of years. So was it really a good thing she did that? Yeah. Like, what was, like,
So it says actually that Ishmael,
Right, does Tshuva.
He was
He does.
abusive.
Yeah, he does
to
Tshuva,
his
so does
mother.
she, by the way.
Yeah.
So does his mother. They do Tshuva.
yes, exactly. They do teshuvah. Yishmael, it says Yishmael and Yitzchak come to bury Avraham later on, not in this week's Torah portion. It says they come to bury Avraham, and it says Yitzchak and Yishmael. Yitzchak meaning Yishmael let Yitzchak go forward because he appreciated who he was. So he did come around. He did come around to realize that Yitzchak is the only child that is the inheritor of Avraham, and he realized the good ways of Yitzchak, that this was the correct way and this was the correct path. And we see that Hagar herself also comes around, because it says Avraham marries a woman called Keturah. Afterwards, after Sarah passes away, he takes Keturah back, and it says that she was Keturah because she smelled like the Ketores. She smelled like the beautiful Ketores, the incense that we give on Yom Kippur, because her holiness, her righteousness. So she did do teshuvah as well. So was it the right thing? Yes, it was the right thing, because it's like you take a tree, right? When you take a tree that's a tall tree and you put a few dents in it, nothing happens. But when you take a tree that's a little sapling, this little tiny growth, or even the seed, and you put some scratches in it, you destroy the whole thing. And this is what we know about children. When children are young, they're so impressionable. So if you look at it like, a zero bullying practice in a school, is that the right approach? Yes, absolutely, It is the right approach. So Sarah realized, I'm not going to let Yishmael contaminate my son Yitzchak. He has a destiny, and if he's being spiritually affected by this much older Yishmael, this is not good. If they're in my house and they're just trying to understand and they're trying to grow, obviously we need to have respect for that. But if they're completely against everything that we stand for, and this is what Hagar showed in her arrogance, Sarah's plan was originally Yishmael will be like her child. She'll take him in, she'll raise him. But when Hagar started to act very arrogantly against Sarah, and that was the first time that she ran away, Sarah said, this isn't working. If she's not going to appreciate the Avraham and Sarah's mission and the teachings that they're giving to the world, then if she's acting arrogant to me, it will defy the whole plan. And the whole plan was that Yishmael should be like a child of mine. But if she's raising him in a way to show arrogance against Sarah and not listen to her, that ruins the whole plan.
It started then?
It started, yes. Yes. So that's what we see. Yes, it was correct. And I mean, that's what we wouldn't know. And that's why we see God himself attest. You're right. Even Abraham was like, maybe we could do it differently, and it was Sarah's intuition that said, it can't be. He's not got no place. And in fact, when we read the Eshet Chayil prayer on Friday night, it says that Avraham wrote the Eshet Chayil prayer that's read Friday night, that's sung Friday night traditionally for the Eshet Chayil, for the women of valor. And he originally put in there, Darshat Semer Upishtim, this woman seeks out wool and linen, and she doesn't put this combination together. And it means we're not allowed to have shatnez, which is made out of wool and linen. But the commentaries explain that this was actually Avraham writing this, that he was saying she seeks out Tzemer Upishtim, the wool and the linen, the Yishmael and the Yitzchak, how they cannot combine. And Sarah saw that. They can't be combined together because the combination is spiritually toxic. And that's why she sought it out in her home, and she absolutely removed it. She wouldn't allow it to be there in her home. So this is something that we really learn from Sarah, and I think it's a lesson that we can learn for ourselves about having that inner conviction and staying true to our inner convictions, even in today's times. I think this is something that we as modern women, we have difficulties with this. We have difficulties in standing up to what we believe is right, to what we believe is true, to being influenced by those around us. And the message is, listen to your voice, listen to your inner voice, the inner voice of your neshama, the inner voice of your soul calling you and telling you what is so important and what you should be doing. And that is this week's lesson.
That's, no, that's right.